And the last point on this this campus emergency plan, they call it, basically it covers all emergencies, any kind of hazards or emergency operations that would take place, and that would be all encompassing. Something else we have to fill out, as I showed you, I have the emergency operations checklist. Well, I also have an equipment inventory as well. And some of the things on the equipment inventory I have to list, though. We have two-way radios that we use. Not everyone has one. So certain people have these that need them. But we have these two-way radios, and I've got to list every person that has a radio on this sheet. We've also got to have our frequency that we use for an emergency radio for weather alerts. We have to make sure that batteries are operational and have been checked in all the equipment, flashlights, things like that, radios, weather radios. It asks how many portables we have. It asks if people are in the portables, do they have radios, what other forms of communication would they have. We have emergency call buttons in every room. They push the button and it calls the main office. The main office can pick up the phone and speak to the person through the intercom in their room. So that's another way we can communicate with them. And also cell phones. We have all the cell phone numbers for all the teachers. We could call their phone if we needed to as well. That's a last resort, though. We'd rather follow through with campus communications rather than using their personal communication. It asks about our operation binder. Is it current? Has it been updated? Yes. We have a bullhorn, for example. The principal wears a black incident commander vest, which is very official. We also have clipboards, laminated sheets, worksheets with erasable marker so that we can make notes if we need to. Sticky notepads, working flashlight batteries, 4-in-1 gas and water shut-off tools. You gotta have the right tools to shut the water and the gas off. First aid kits, pens, just things like that. And then at the very end, I have to sign saying that I have not purged myself and that these things are all in place and that we have done everything we're supposed to do. Because if an emergency happened and I didn't, then that would be a problem. So I need to make sure that all those things are taking place. We have a personnel accountability report, and it tells you who the rally captains are, people in charge of different areas and different students, and who that would be. That way you have one person disseminating information that you give to all the other people. That way you're not having to haphazardly tell people what's going on. In other words, it's a communication chain of command. I also have a sheet that checks out the radios to certain people so to know which radio is with which person. Has a serial number so that they turn those radios in at the end of the year, and I check them in and I redistribute them the next coming school year. The last piece of information I have, which is kind of interesting, they make us do, excuse me, potential hazard identification worksheet. What this is they ask us to think about some of the hazards that may be around our area of the school that could be a potential hazard in the future. So some of the things that I listed, we have railroad tracks nearby. That's actually a hazard, believe it or not. You could have a derailment. That's happened before. You know, derailments with chemicals or whatever get into the air. We'd have to evacuate. You could have a car being struck by the train, things like that that could be potentially dangerous. So each area that I list has some different columns that I need to fill out. So for example, frequency, highly frequent, likely, possible, or unlikely. I circle possible. It's a possibility. Now, it's not probably likely it's always going to happen, but it's possible a train could derail or a car could be struck and cause a problem. Magnitude. Now, the magnitude has catastrophic, critical, limited, or negligible. I put down critical because if a train did derail or a car was struck, it would be definitely critical. As far as warning, minimal 4 hour, 4 would be minimal. 3 would be 6 to 12 hours of warning. There's 12 to 24 hours of warning, or 24 plus. Well, obviously, it would be minimal warning if there's an accident with this rain. You're not going to have a lot of time to react to it. Severity, again, catastrophic, critical, limited or negligent, it would be critical. And then lastly, you have risk priority, and that would definitely be a high risk. You have low and medium, that would definitely be a high risk. Another area listed on here was gang crime activity in the area. Again, I circled possible, magnitude limited. Warning would probably be minimal in most cases, limited as far as severity, and then medium risk. There is an airport less than a mile away from here, Meacham Airport. So I circled unlikely for the frequency that something would happen, but it would be critical if it did happen. You'd have minimal time. It would be critical in severity, and the risk priority, I'd say, is low on that. It's very seldom that you're going to have any air crashes. If they do, probably wouldn't happen close enough to us. High traffic roads nearby, I did circle likely for the frequency on that one. Magnitude would be critical, warning is minimal, and severity would be critical. And I did circle high for priority because, I mean, we do have a really busy road. Kids can be struck. It's a lot of cars. Fire, possible, critical for the magnitude, minimal in warning. Severity would be critical, and priority would be high because fire is very likely. Weather would be, I circled likely for frequency because every year we do have weather, tornadic weather. I put circle critical and limited for the magnitude. It just depends. It could be either. 6 to 12 hours of warning. Critical and limited for the severity, and then I circled medium for the risk priority because it just depends on how severe the storm is. I put down chemical spills carried by train, so I did put that in here. Unlikely, I circled for the frequency. Catastrophic for the magnitude. Minimal in warning, catastrophic for severity, and low for the risk. And last but not least, believe it or not, I did put stray dog on here because we do have stray pit bulls that roam these streets sometimes, and I've actually had to go out with a bat and chase them away. I put down likely for the frequency because there are a lot of stray dogs. I made a Chihuahua speed bump on the way home one day, so I can vouch for that. Poor little dog. Magnitude is limited. The warning is minimal usually, and severity is limited, especially with the Chihuahuas. And the risk priority would be low. So there are stray dogs, but usually it doesn't end up with anybody being bit. Now, if we do have any kind of an emergency that takes place, we have the safety management procedures, and this covers any type of emergency. And what it does is it goes through step by step what I need to do as an administrator to ensure that all the things are covered. So, for example, a fire or explosion or fire drill. It lists the steps of the fire drill in here. Tells you exactly what I need to do if something happens, like if there was a fire, or if there was an intruder, or something like that. If we have a lockdown, for example, lockdown, we used to use the code word, say code red, and everybody would lock their doors. Well, that kind of induces a panic, so they stopped doing that. So now you actually do say this is a lockdown procedure. Teachers, please proceed with lockdown, and they would lock their door. They get all the kids on one side of the room. The same size as the door so they can't be seen, turn the lights off, and the children are kept quiet until we are released from lockdown. Lockdown is if an intruder enters a school or someone, an unfriendly, then they are, those people would, until the threat is cleared, they would stay in lockdown situation.